Hello everyone and welcome back to another theory video. Today, I want to talk about the next expansion to Sumeru, as well as more of my thoughts on Apep and his potential for being the next weekly boss. Before we dive in though, I'd just like to say thank you so much for 5,000 subscribers. It means so much to me, and the amount of support you all give is incredible. I love and appreciate you all so much. With that said though, let's just jump straight into the video. To start off, I'd just like to say that yes, we are getting another Sumeru expansion before Fontaine releases. Currently, we don't have enough Dendroculi in the game to get our Sumeru stats to 7 to level 10, we can't at 100% exploration progress in Sumeru, and the Tree of Dreams is locked at level 40 for now. So, all those things combined means that we have to get one more Sumeru expansion so we can complete all of those things. As for what this expansion would be like, I'm thinking that it will focus on Apep, the mysterious friend of King Deshret, and perhaps a friend of Greater Lord Rukkhadevata and the Goddess of Flowers as well. In a cave located in the northwestern part of the desert of Hadramaveth, you can find a mysterious glowing hole in the wall that you can't enter just yet. This place is known as Apep's Resort. Additionally, you can find a viewpoint here. It is titled The Lost Hermitage, and its description is this. It is said that a friend of King Deshret once built their court in a great cavern beneath the dunes. Weenuts served here as court officials, and flying serpents as companions. But today, both creatures have lost their noble wit and vigor. As I said earlier, this friend of King Deshret mentioned in this description is most likely Apep. Apep had both Weenut and flying serpents under his command, which most likely means he was a snake as well. Apep is also of course inspired by the Egyptian god of chaos of the same name, who was also a snake. I'll get more into Apep himself later, but for now I'd like to talk about the expansion itself. I believe this expansion will introduce two new areas, one above ground, which we can get some glimpses of at a few places around the map, and the other being an underground area, much like Ankonomiya or the underground mines of the chasm, where the mysterious hole in the northwest could lead. Starting with the above ground area, this is most likely going to be another part of the desert. To the north of the desert of Hadramaveth, there is some modeled land, much like how the other desert expansions were modeled and able to be seen before they were released, albeit in an incomplete state. This is most likely the case for this area as well. While it is hard to see this area from the desert of Hadramaveth due to the giant formation in the way, there are still some spots where you can see beyond it. The two spots that I found to be good were the northernmost point on the Wall of Samuel, and the top of the mausoleum of King Deshret. From these vantage points, I was able to see a few things. From the mausoleum, you can see a path on the left that leads from the desert of Hadramaveth up to this new area. You can actually go to the start of this path in game now, and even see a hilly trail camp in the distance, but you can't go beyond the start. You can also see from here that the formations in this area are huge, towering above the sandstorm in the center of the desert of Hadramaveth, and potentially even reaching the height of Dragonspine. There are also a few holes in these formations, which could have been caused by Apep at some point. From the Wall of Samuel, it also seems that there is some space between these big formations, meaning there could be some flat valleys here. This area could be used as an arena for a world boss, which I will discuss ideas for later on, or perhaps another entrance into the underground area. Speaking of the underground area, I'd like to share my ideas on that now, as I believe there is a lot more potential for that. Like I said earlier, this area would be similar to Ankonomiya or the underground mines of the chasm, meaning it will have its own map. It would be accessed from the hole in the northwest, and perhaps another entrance in the above ground area. This underground area would be where Apep built his court, meaning we will probably encounter some flying serpents or even some Weenuts here. They could even introduce Weenuts with different elements, though lore-wise, it makes sense that they are only Anemo, as they used to fly through the sky. Anyways, for the layout of this underground area, I was thinking that part of it would be more open, that being the part with Apep's court. While still ancient and most likely falling apart, it would be a brighter area filled with technology, perhaps given to Apep from King Deshret. It could also lead to the entrance of the weekly boss fight against Apep, which I'll cover more in a little bit. Now, I was thinking there could be a second part to this underground area, which would be more closed in and darker. Perhaps underneath Apep's court, there could be even more ancient constructions, similar to those in Ankonomia or the inverted city beneath the chasm. There could even be Conrian tech here, including a 4th ruin golem. It would be even cooler if there are actually still people alive from this ancient civilization down there. They could have been lost beneath the surface and forgotten ages ago, much like how Ankonomia was forgotten until Orobashi brought its people to the surface and created Watatsumi Island. They could give us information about times long past, such as the war between the Primordial One and the Second Who Came, as well as the Four Shades. Then again, it is likely that Apep is actually older than the Four Shades, as he ruled the Weenuts, who were said to be older than the concept of time, likely referencing Istaroth, the god of time. While an ancient civilization could have fallen down here, it is unlikely that Apep wouldn't have known, and would have tried instead to save them. Although again, Apep is most likely going to be the next weekly boss, so perhaps he wasn't as nice as the main 3 Sumeru gods, and didn't really care what happened to humans, leaving this civilization below the surface. With that, I'd now like to talk about Apep, and how the weekly boss fight against him could play out. First off, this weekly boss will likely tie in with the second act of Nahida's story quest, much like how Aishtaha and the Shogun fights were unlocked through second acts of Zhongli and Raiden's story quests. As for how this quest would play out, my idea is that Apep has been asleep for thousands of years, perhaps even sealed away like Aishtaha was. Suddenly though, reports of a giant serpent start coming in from the new area of the desert, which the traveler would hear about one way or another. They would then either go to Nahida to ask for her help about who or what the giant serpent is, or go right away to try and fight it, only to either be stopped by Nahida or find her along the way. Either way, they would eventually reach the Domain of Apep together, needing to stop him. In the fight, Apep would likely use anemo attacks, much like the Weenut. Perhaps he could have 2 phases in the same way Aishtaha does, with Apep imbuing his attacks with the powers of Cryo, Hydro, Pyro, or Electro. Alternatively, his second phase could involve him flying into the air, requiring us to use ranged attacks to knock him down for big damage. His attacks in general could be similar to the Weenuts, but more powerful. He could also burrow underneath the ground and attack us from below, or maybe even head into a cave system along the walls of the domain, with him then popping out from a random cave each time, making his movements hard to predict. In the end though, we as the travelers will beat Apep, and he will either return to his slumber or be sealed away once again, much to his dismay. Additionally, I'd like Apep's evil to be more how he's just always been. With Aishtaha, erosion caused him to become angry and evil, but for Apep, I'd just like to see an evil godlike creature in the game. Like I said in the previous section, Apep could have been less caring to humans, which is why he would have Weenuts and flying serpents under his command instead. It also would explain why he would ignore a potential underground civilization, and could have potentially even lied to the other gods about it being there. Perhaps he pretended to care for humanity in front of the other gods, but once he let his guard down, leading them to discovering his true nature and sealing him away. There are tons of ways his fight and lore could go, and I really can't wait to see what happens and what he's actually like. Moving on from Apep though, I have a few more ideas regarding these areas that I'd like to talk about. First up is a new world boss. Like I said earlier, there's a flat area between the mountains above ground where a world boss arena could be. Additionally, there could also be an arena below ground, so I'll go over an idea for each. Starting with the above ground boss, I was thinking a bigger form of one of the consecrated beasts. We already have the Weenut, which is similar to the Anemo flying serpent, so I'm thinking either the Pyro Red Vulture or the Electro Scorpion could get a bigger version as a world boss. For this video, I'm gonna go with the Pyro Red Vulture. Perhaps there could be a Phoenix boss that resides in this new area that has great power over Pyro. This boss would fly around in the sky, sending down attacks from above, requiring players to strike it down from the sky in order to deal big damage. Additionally, it could have a mechanic where it enters a healing state, similar to the hypostases, where you have to stop it before it regenerates more health. This of course references a phoenix's ability to come back to life. The phoenix in Greek mythology also represents consecration, which of course would tie in well to the consecrated beasts. Anyways, moving on to my idea for an underground world boss, I was thinking of a boss made from the technology of the potential civilization I talked about earlier, located underneath Apep's court. While it may or may not be made using Conrian technology, it could still be a tough boss to fight. It could have been an invention made to try and get the people of this civilization out from underground, but it didn't work. As for what it would be like, I was thinking of a big, strong-armed boss who could slam its fists down onto the ground, creating shockwaves to fight against opponents. Speaking of the civilization and world bosses, they could have some ties to the ruined serpent in the chasm. Perhaps it was one of their inventions to get out, or alternatively, Conria made the serpent to try and find other civilizations that had fallen beneath the surface. Anyways, this new boss could also be tied into a World Quest series in this new area, and perhaps it is used to train soldiers or something like that. When we get down there, the ruler of this area, if there are people down here like I hope, could have us fight the boss to prove our worth and help get them out. Speaking of the people, I had an idea for a playable character from down here. Like I've said in recent videos, we only have 2 characters that we know of with visions, those being Baiju and Kaveh, who have yet to be playable or announced as playable. And we most likely have 3 updates before Fontaine, being 3.6 to 3.8. With that said, the character I thought of for this video would be from the ancient civilization forgotten about beneath the surface. This would explain why no one in Sumeru has heard about them. Plus, it would be really cool to have a character who lives below the surface. Anyways, I was thinking they would be a soldier, or maybe training to be one, and they would fight the potential new world boss alongside us. As for their vision and rarity, I was thinking of a 5-star DPS Geo character, as we haven't had a new Geo character since 2.4, and also don't have one native to Sumeru. Additionally, them having a vision would show that this realm below hasn't been forgotten about the gods in some way. Perhaps they could even get their vision during the fight against the boss, showing the leader of the civilization that they finally have been remembered again and can return to the surface. This expansion is coming quite soon, and I personally can't wait for it. There are so many possibilities of what could happen and what might be there, and it's already super close to coming out, most likely releasing in version 3.6. Some of my ideas might be a bit far out, but hey, it's fun to speculate, and I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments below too. Before I go, I'd just like to thank you all again for 5,000 subscribers. You are all absolutely incredible, and I couldn't do this without you. I love you all so much, and I'm so happy and thankful for all of your support. Anyways though, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Sources and further readings are also in the description if you want to check them out. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll see you all in the next video.